the Belated Binge podcast.
Hi, and thanks for watching Belated Binge on YouTube. Here we post mostly unedited footage from segments of our podcast series where we re-binge some of the most iconic series in recent memory that I was incredibly late on. Follow along as we're rereading the Harry Potter series and join the discussion in the comment section. If you enjoy it, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to not miss an episode. And of course, if you want to hear the episode in full, you can listen to Belated Binge wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media, become a patron for early access and exclusive bonus content. Again, thanks for watching Belated Binge.
A Game of Inches.
The Game of Inches segment on the Belated Binge podcast is where we dissect a decision that happened or that was made during the chapter and what kind of ripple effect that had on the series had it been made just slightly different. What if a character didn't do one thing that they did, and how might that snowball and change what happens at by the end of this series? And so the scenario that we want to play out in today's Game of Inches is, what if Harry read his letter in the hallway before he brought the rest of the mail into the kitchen? It's not crazy to think he'd be excited. Nobody's ever written to him before in his life. Why not just open it right there and check out what's inside? It sounds like, oh, well, we wouldn't have gotten all of this fun that happened in these next couple of chapters. But I wonder, sure, we miss out on comedy. We miss out on a Vernon nervous breakdown. They probably wouldn't have ended up in a rock in the middle of the sea, but would the Dursleys have been honest with him if he came to the information himself? Would they try to play it off as some kind of sick prank because witchers and wizards aren't real, little boy? You're just being silly. Don't ask questions. Don't, have an imagination. Don't eat more than crackers and cheese. Don't exist. Please. They're awful. But what would they do? How would they have handled Harry bringing them this information? Would Hagrid have still had to come to the house, to get him just from there instead of out on a rock? Would the school have known to send somebody when Harry didn't respond? Would they have just, assumed that he read the letter? They would have to know that he at least read the letter, because otherwise that's why they kept sending them. It's not because he didn't respond. It's because they knew he didn't read it, right? Please respond via owl is one of the things that the letter said at the end. If he just doesn't respond, do they just assume he's not coming? They wouldn't have to send a million more letters, but would the Dursleys, they wouldn't let him go, right? They would never let him just go if they felt like they had any choice in the matter. In fact, would Harry have even believed it himself? He had a hard enough time when an 8-foot tall half giant told him he's never going to believe some random letter that came from some school he's never heard of. Would he have ever made it to Hogwarts? Of course he would. He's the main protagonist in our story, but how? Would Dumbledore have come and gotten him? Would this be we have to believe it wouldn't have been Harry Potter in the Dusty Cupboard. That's a short story that lives on, I don't know, Hulu short, or I don't know what. I'm an old man. Rock, chisel. This owl delivery would be way better for me than trying to remember all of the different streaming sites that I have access to. It's a nightmare. Anyway, it wouldn't. We have to have a 7-book, mega series, right? So obviously he has to find his way to Hogwarts, but he's the boy who lived with muggles. So presumably someone was going to have to come and get him to get things to go, right? Even if it was Hagrid, assume he read the letter. Assume he had reservations and reacted in the same way that he did when Hagrid told him, "I'm not special. I'm Harry. I can't be a wizard. You have the wrong address. How did you know I'm in the cupboard under? What kind of sick joke is this? Who's sending this? Is this Piers? That I feel like that would be in character for Harry's response to this. So even if Hagrid showed up at the door, would Harry feel the same bond for him or the same fondness if they didn't share the moment the way that they did get to share it? Or would he just be, some big scary looking dude who took him to get his books instead of, the big friendly giant that defended him against his crappy aunt and uncle and defended his parents and showed that emotion and showed that reaction and showed that they're truly allies and showed that he truly cares about Harry. Harry needed that, I think, to build up the trust of not only Hagrid, but I think it probably cemented or at least allowed the cementation. Is that a thing? I don't know. I think it allowed him to trust the wizarding world the way that Hagrid showed up as a defender. And I think that made a big difference for how Harry perceived this whole introduction to the wizarding world from the beginning. I don't know. That's obviously not the story that we get. We have the story that we have and that we get to enjoy rereading, but it is still interesting to think of how things could be different if, again, just one small thing, one small decision was changed and what kind of ripple effect that could have. Before we get out of here, let's give away our meaningless awards. Today, we are going to start with the game ball.